When you really, really, really believe,
Yeah.
that acronym, I fully, wholeheartedly believe. I put a lot of time, a lot of thought
Yes,
into it,
exactly.
and I believe that. So again, when I know that, and I'm not ignorant of other opinions, I welcome the
Sure.
feedback, but that is
Yes.
not going to change who I am as
Yes.
a person. I'm going to use it to learn.
Hello, feisty badass triathletes, cyclists, runners, swimmers, Ironman finishers, and wannabe triathletes. How are you guys doing? I am so excited to have this live show once again. And today is very important topic. Why? Because this could be something that could be holding you back to that next level high performance in your training and racing in triathlon and endurance sports. And actually, I've invited a very special guest. That is Dr. Meany, or Dr. Brandon Meany. And he is a doctor of sports and psychology, sports and performance psychology. His focus is alignment of individual and group goals with intentions and behaviors. He's a former collegiate American football and rugby player. He's a high school physical education and yoga teacher. He's also researching and writing a book on high performance coaching through the lens of self-determination theory. I actually met him because he's doing this research and he was asking me about high performance coaching. He could tell you more about his research later on, but today we are gonna focus this very important topic: managing performance anxiety. Let's welcome Dr. Brandon Meany. How's it going, Dr. Meany? How are you doing today?
Thank you, Coach Rendon. I mean, your enthusiasm is contagious from the moment I met you. So I appreciate that.
I heard that a lot of times. Sometimes it's too energy for a lot of people, but this is the way I'm good. Oh, I like that.
For me. I vibe off people who are enthusiastic, energetic, and ready to compete. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you putting some time to help our athletes today. And we are very excited. I actually had initial conversation with our athletes and they know that they're looking forward to it. So if you are viewing to our live show, put #live, or if you're viewing this one as a replay, #replay, or if you want a link to the replay later on, just also put that up. Or if you want to tag your friends who needs this topic or who wants to hear about this topic to help them in training and racing, let them know about it and say, hello, you're here. You are excited and pumped up. #pumped up, because we're going to get started. So now, anxiety, performance anxiety, I actually asked that in the group and I was kind of like curious. Not a lot of people say like, I'm having issue of that, or I've experienced that. And I'm not quite sure why, because I think it's I think it's a normal thing, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just me. How about tell us, Dr. Meany, what is performance anxiety, or what is anxiety?
Well, first off, it's different for everybody. There's different things that make people different, anxious. Outside of the sporting world, some people are afraid to fly. Some people are afraid of walking down the street. Some people are afraid of challenges, speaking in public. So this is it's all relative to the person and the individual. Secondly, this is normal. I repeat,
normal.
This is normal. Okay? Not only is anxiety and a little bit of sporting anxiety normal, but it means that you're doing something important to you.
Yep.
That you're here, that you're ready to do your best, and you want to do your best. And that's not a bad thing. And if you don't have butterflies in your stomach a little bit,
something wrong.
Maybe you're not doing the right thing. I was told on a flight from Bogota to Cartagena by a pilot, said, if something gives you goosebumps, go for it. And I think that's very important for people to understand that you get that feeling, if you get that anxiousness, it means you're on the right path.
Yeah. So
And then,
now I know you actually prepared several slides, and I don't want to miss that out since especially it's right here right now, as you guys can see it. Maybe you can run through. So you put some anxiety here. There's trait anxiety. So there's several anxiety. If you can just give us a quick preview. So what is anxiety?
so really, trait anxiety. There's two different types of anxiety: trait anxiety, state anxiety. Trait anxiety is something that you deal with in all situations and all facets of life. That is outside of my scope and sequence. That is more for a mental health counselor.
Ah, okay, okay.
That is more for a licensed psychologist or
Sure.
whatever, clinical psychologist. That's out of my realm. Okay? But what I do help people with is managing state anxiety. And that would be
Okay.
something that you would have before a competition, before a
Mm,
game, before a triathlete race, whatever it might be. And that is just feelings of uncertainty, feelings of
okay, gotcha.
nervousness, and things that you being unsure of how things are going to work out.
Mm,
And a lot of times you have that because either you're not fully, might have cognitive state anxiety where you're focusing too much on the pressure of the situation.
sure.
You might have semantic anxiety where you have some physiological effects, or it might
Okay.
be a perceived control state anxiety where you don't feel like you have the resources, you don't have the capacities to do your best. And the good news is that there are ways to manage and lessen cognitive, somatic, and perceived control state anxiety.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So I think maybe that's why some athletes don't say like I'm having anxiety. Maybe because they don't really understand that there are two types, which Dr. Meany just said, trait anxiety and state anxiety.
Yep.
We're talking about more the state anxiety is these are the nervousness, worry, apprehension that we feel before the competition.
Yep.
Anyone here, sorry, Dr. Meany, I just want to ask, is there anyone here who doesn't feel anxious or nervous or something uneasiness? Okay. Or if you feel it, say me, yes, and it's okay. It's normal. Okay. So let's welcome Wendell, Gloria, Justin, Fanny, Ryan. Welcome, welcome. Hashtag life, you're here. Say hello. So at least we know that you guys can hear us. All right. That's good to know, Dr. Meany. So now, well, what triggers this performance anxiety or anxiety?
Mm-hmm. So there might be many things. And
Okay.
this should be having inaccurate goal alignment. This should
Okay.
be you thinking, I want to run a 6-minute mile when you've never put in a
You're
mile
training.
under 6:15. Okay?
That could be an unrealistic goal then,
It
right?
could be a very unrealistic goal. It could be you having an unhealthy relationship with sport.
Mm,
What is your athletic identity? What are your core
okay.
values? How do you judge yourself as an athlete? And then you go into all these other areas. You're worried about your confidence. You're worried about your
Confidence.
capabilities. Okay. Environmental finances. Is your
Mm,
job, is your livelihood dependent to being a triathlete or an athlete?
sure.
You have a chaotic travel schedule. Were you not nearly as committed? Some people don't realize that their commitment level didn't really mesh up with their actions or what
Or
you want.
or sometimes the commitment, they're not even clear what their commitments
Yes.
are. It could be like, okay, what's the priorities are, right?
Yeah.
So okay, I see that could be
Mhm.
challenging. All right.
So then, and you're outside sport. Is a time away from your family. So you're training
Sure.
for a marathon. You have to run 3.5, 4 hours on a Saturday. You've worked all week. This,
Yeah.
I know if I told my wife I'm going to be gone for 4 hours, she might have a few questions about where you're going, why are you doing this? You're
Yeah.
old. You probably shouldn't be, whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that lead up to this. And I must clarify that this is not only different for everybody, but what I do very well is try to find out and pinpoint exactly what is hindering your performance and how do we go about managing it.
I see. It sounds like for us to actually be able to manage the anxiety is to really look into these stressors And if it's a stressor, that could be a possibility that could be causing that anxiety. And if we just ignore that and go on, okay, I'm good. Because a lot of our athletes just like work, family, train, work, family, train. It's like, it's just so much. So for other athletes, it's just so much to think about it and to dig into it. So they end up not being able to solve it. Yeah. So now, what are those signs that it is happening already, or it could happen before the race? Because it's possible that they're just so used to actually managing their time in training, so they don't really feel like everything's okay because it's natural for them. Yep. And then now they go to the race and like, boom, there's like the anxiety right before the race or during the week. So what are the signs that, you know, that we need to actually take a look at, make sure that that could be it?
So from a semantic perspective or physiological perspective, people might have calm, clammy hands. Okay. They might be urinating frequently, sweating profusely. Before football games, I used to vomit uncontrollably. Oh my God. Like wow. Alien type of sounding vomit. It was not fun. So, you know, people might be sick, dry mouth, difficulty sleeping the night before, but you also might have some sort of cognitive anxiety where you have negative self-talk. Okay. You might be telling yourself, you don't belong here. You're not going to do well today. Sure. This didn't line up. You had this happen. And a lot of people have a very difficult time not only calming themselves down physiologically, but also redirecting and reframing those negative thoughts so you can just be in the moment and you can perform at your best. And that's really what we're looking to do, is how can we eliminate all the periphery, all the things going on in your life, and things going on internally, physiologically, and just run, just swim, ride the bike, or in other sports, just play ball. So we're trying to really set up the person to create that flow state so that they're performing optimally and they're flourishing and they're not getting within their own way. So if you're supposed to run, if you're supposed to swim, 2 miles in 45 minutes, but that's what you're going to hit, that goal, your best possible performance.
Gotcha. So I want to ask people, like, who's viewing this one, if you feel anxious or you feel worried or you feel nervousness, what are the symptoms? Have you actually looked into that? Or maybe you did not even know that that could be symptoms or signs. So any of those that Dr. Meany actually said, clammy hands or like going to the bathroom often, or some of the negative self-talk, actually Jennifer said, yeah, I mean, that negative self-talk, that comes up. Honestly, like, for example, like, what if that person actually have not been training? Yeah. Or they could be probably training a lot, but then they have this high expectation wherein it has to be perfect. And then now it's not perfect. Am I ready? Did I do enough? Right.
Well, and what really comes of that is when you have false expectations that don't align with what you've been doing. They don't align with your actions. Got it. If you are someone who has been training, and you and I spoke about this in our last conversation, where you are very in the data, and there's numbers, and there's other things that can reframe your thoughts, where I have an anchor. Unfortunately, you and I cannot manipulate time. So if you are running a certain time, you're swimming or biking a certain time, and that has been consistent, you might have your best time, you might have a low performing time, but in the middle of the road, that gives you a rough goal where I don't say I have to hit my top time. If I hit my average time or a little bit above, to me, that's a success. So I'm defining the terms of my success. And then if you did have a bad day, what happened? What led up to it?
Sure.
Reflect on the day. And I go through that a little bit later in the performance plan of how you can find out what went wrong, but really you root yourself back in statistics. Why should you not be afraid to fly? Because plane crashes happen, knock on wood, thankfully, so little. They happen once every 5-10 years. There's millions and millions of flights that go off in the U.S.
Gotcha.
But you might have heard of one thing that happened 10 years ago. And
it's only one thing. It's like a big thing, right? Okay.
You have one bad race, is at the end of the world.
Yep. So Jennifer said no sleeping, stomach issues. A lot of times, some symptoms could be like, for example, before Ironman, some athletes are actually couldn't sleep and they end up not being able to sleep, and that's tough because this is like they've been training so hard, and then suddenly they cannot get that sleep or they having this stomach issues that's related to anxiety. Anything else that you guys are having symptoms besides what Dr. Meany have said here? These are different things: constantly sick, inability to concentrate, increased muscle tension, or just lack of clarity of what's next, low confidence. Good, good. So, what do we need to do? Looks like Dr. Meany actually prepared some action plan that relates to the anxiety. Can you tell me more about this, Dr. Meany?
So really, this is a generalized plan. Again, this is all
Sure.
individualized based off the person, and I spend a lot of time getting to know them. But part of the action plan is identifying who you are as an athlete and what your sporting ethic is. Right? As an athlete, what is important to you? Why are you here? Why are you doing this? And then your ethic: did you commit the time? Did you put in the work beforehand? Are you showing up as a casual racer? And that's okay. Or are you there to win the thing? Did your training line up with that ethic? What are your core values, and do you have a growth mindset? Well, at the end of the day, you're a human being before you're an athlete. You're always going to be. My core values is the acronym GRATEFUL. And I follow those with every single interaction I do every single day. And at the end of the day, I don't worry about what other people think because I know what I did. And that really is because I have a strong sense of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get it out there. Comparison is a thief of joy. If you're worried about what other performers are doing, not only is your attention getting directed towards them and not on your own performance, but now you're going to measure them with something that has nothing to do with you.
Sure.
Why would you compare yourself with somebody else? Because their training, their life, their natural abilities, their cognition is not even close, is not the same, and never will be.
So you're saying that what I'm getting there is that for me to know my mission, my core values, and to focus on me rather than looking around me or what others or have those whatever they said about me affect the way I think, the way I train, the way I race. I have to own it. Is that right?
100%.
Because of what I wanted to share, like for example, in peers or even in the athletes, sometimes in a group of athletes, they look around, and then some of them who are new, they would be like, you know what, Coach Shangrila, I'm not like any of your athletes because they look like they're doing great. And these are sometimes like the athletes who are just coming into the sport. But I have to like, wait. I will be your sounding board. Let me tell you what you're telling yourself. You're looking around, you're losing focus about yourself on your training, and you're comparing to those people, but you don't know what really they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a privilege of a coach actually knowing what you're going through, because there's a lot more into that. Okay, good. So now what I want to do, let me see if there's anything of this that that could actually help. Let me see you. And then you wanted to separate the you and the athlete.
Absolutely.
Can you explain more about this one? So there's a separation between you and the athlete. What does that mean?
Well, what is your identity? What makes you happy? Is it makes you happy that you are a great husband or wife, a great mother or father, that you're good at your daytime job, that you're showing up and worked really hard to finish the race? Or do you want to win it? And I don't think a lot of people are very clear about that when they go into a training plan. And when you don't have sound foundations of athletic identity, when you don't have sound foundations of core values and growth mindset, your goal action plan is going to be entirely off. Because you don't know, number one, who you are. You, number one, don't know why you're doing this. You are comparing yourself to other people. You can't even create appropriate goals because you're unsure why you're doing it. So a lot of people will not have those type of questions or that conversation with someone who knows how to draw it out of them.
Okay. So I want to ask you, going back, so how does knowing the core value relate to managing anxiety? Like knowing and separating, having the mission statement, being clear with the core values or what's important. How's that connect?
So most importantly, I'm a fallible human being. I make mistakes. I understand that. I want this podcast to be awesome for you, Coach. But I'm 37 years old. I recently graduated about a year ago with my doctorate in sport and performance psychology. What I know now, and I accept this, is going to be completely different than what I know in 20 years.
Okay.
When I start as an athlete, I know that I'm going to progress over a period of time, and I'm going to be way better in 20 years than I am right now. And a lot of people don't understand that path. And me telling myself that I am fallible, that you might trip, your shoe might come untied, you might fall off your bike.
Gotcha.
But how do you not allow that to cripple your mission? I mean, how do you not allow that? People get nervous and, well, people are going to think I'm bad at riding because I fell off my bike. It happens all the time.
All right.
But a lot of people will lose confidence in that moment.
Gotcha.
But I've already accepted the fact that this might not go perfectly. We might have a technical issue. Someone might be on the other line saying, this guy does not know what he's talking about. Okay, thank you for the feedback. I'm going to use it as an opportunity to learn and grow, and I'm going to move on.
Yeah. So understanding and accepting your own path.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I judge myself by nobody but me.
And then you set your expectation of yourself. Also to treat those. So for example, you said, like, let's say a person who's just learning how to unclip on the bike. And that person, actually that athlete, fell off several times. But this is something that wherein you can accept before you even go to a bike that it's not going to be perfect the first time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Or for example, it could be a race that it can take several times to actually master of how to execute those racing strategies.
Oh, absolutely. And that experience alone, like think about how bad you were your first race. And then think about when you rode across the country. You're a different Coach Rendon.
Oh yeah.
From that time, from the first race to the other time. And you have to allow that process to play out.
Yep. Actually, our athletes who are viewing right now, they can relate. Not being defined by failures, definitely, Jennifer. So, but I think knowing that it can go wrong and having that acceptance that it may not be perfect is something that could actually reduce the anxiety, and using that more of as a learning process could also reduce the anxiety.
And that's our supportive goal setting as well, where people talk about outcome goals. Okay, the whole process, performance, and outcome. And yes, they do line up, and the process needs to feed the performance, and the performance needs to feed the outcome. 100% agree. But I brought this from Dr. Michael Gervais, where he creates very lofty or broad goals. Because if you create a very, very, very specific goal, if that's not met, you might think you're a failure. And then that might actually hinder performance. That might actually make you quit.
Mm-hmm.
So by having a loftier goal and not super specific, you're able to say, all right, well, I didn't meet winning the race, but I got third and I ran my best time. And this to me is a success.
Yeah, got it. I wanted to use this one here. I think this one actually explains what you were trying to say earlier, growth and fixed mindset.
Yep.
Can you explain more about this, Dr. Meany?
Yeah. So, a growth mindset is, again, every time you line up on the line, you know that this is an opportunity for me to get better. This is an opportunity for me to challenge myself. This is an opportunity for me to learn what other competitors are doing. And I'm not worried about the outcome, which is a fixed mindset. And I'm only completely fixated on that goal. And if you do that, you're going to be disappointed sometimes.
I want to ask you, because a lot of our athletes have these goals to inspire their friends and family. They come there and they wanted to show, I finished this Ironman or I finished this race. But then I think there's also this fear that gets them so anxious. Well, what if I don't get that?
Mm-hmm.
How do we go about it? That's an example that I would like to, if you can help us, reframe that, because we have some of those athletes that's just like, what are my friends going to say if I don't get to do it? And I'm all this training and they're going to say to me, I told you so. Of all the times you've been training, spending all your money, I told you so. You should have not picked up that bike. It's so expensive, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a lot of negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through that process, if that particular example, because I'm pretty sure there's many of athletes in watching this right now. Feel that.
I would simply ask them, how many triathlons have you finished?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, for me, if I'm an athlete, I participate in a lot of sports. I really don't know a lot about triathletes. That's why I contacted you originally. I'm there to learn, right?
Sure.
I learned a lot in our conversation. But if I don't know a lot about running triathlons, and I've never done it, probably the average layman hasn't done it either. So if they are asking you that, I would go back and redefine your terms of success and then share that with them.
Got it.
And when you say it very calmly that it was my goal to finish, it was my goal to come in the top quarter, it was my goal to not fall off the bike, whatever it might be that you define, tell them that and then see how they respond. Because again, when you have that solid athletic identity, when you have a solid core values, when you have a mission statement, it doesn't matter what other people know.
Got it. Actually, what I wanted to share to you, like, for example, one of the things that I had to come across of this anxiety was just last year when I say I was going to do this many Ironman in 34 days. And I have a mindset coach, my life coach. And I said that, what if I don't finish it? What if I fail? And I broadcast it to everyone. All my athletes know, all the people following me know that I'm going to do this crazy world record. And that was my attempt. And without knowing what can happen within that 34 days. And what she told me is that people know that you're doing your best. And you are there to inspire and not to fail. You are there to do your best and you'll do whatever it takes. So what I wanted to share you guys, to those listening or viewing this one, is that stay within your boundaries of what you believe in yourself and basically just do your best rather than being stopped by that. What would they say? Mm-hmm. Because to me, for example, judgment, okay, that could come across and I have to reframe my mindset. You know what? I am there. I'm going to show up and I'll do my best. I'll go solve the problem one day at a time and let's see what happens. And right. I think actually that's a learning experience for me. And a lot of times, like, I hear it from my mindset coach or my life coach, they would say things, but it's completely different when a person actually experience and learn it, but it's scary.
Well, it takes a strong person. It takes a strong person, but when you really, really, really believe it, that acronym, I wholeheartedly believe. I put a lot of time and a lot of thought.
Yes, exactly.
And I believe that. So again, when I know that, and I'm not ignorant of other opinions, I welcome the feedback, but that is not going to change who I am as a person. I'm going to use it to learn.
Good.
So one thing I think that we should cover, talk about anxiety at the time of racing.
Right.
And when you drive, what lessens your anxiety while driving? Using what?
My car. If my brake works.
What? So I'm very good at, like, I'm from Chicago, right? I know all the streets and I'm very good.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
But most people aren't. And if you drive in downtown Chicago, what helps people? What gives people confidence? What?
Navigator.
GPS. Right? GPS, right? So when you have a GPS, when you have plans in place, and when you're traveling, you have a plan in place, you have an itinerary, right? When you're getting ready a pre-race, you have routines for readiness, things that you do. I have a lot of time, medium time, no time. This is a way that you can lessen performance anxiety by having a pre-event in place, a during, plan, and then a post race. And these are all mental skills that will help you prepare yourself where I know I'm doing when I might feel a moment of anxiety. Boom, I can snap myself back in and I can tap in to any of these skills. Now, this isn't really a mental skill, but it's so important where you have some food in you or not eat at all. It all depends on according to your body, but you have something. All right, I ate something. I know I'm not going to get sick. I know I'm not going to throw up. I've eaten this protein bar a million times. Then you have a clear understanding of why you showed up that day. You can imagine yourself going through the race, transitioning from swimming to running to biking. You can imagine yourself putting your feet in your clip. Okay, the smell of the ocean as you go past it, and then you enact your routines for readiness. And then you have something that, oh, boom, we've all been at a race or a game where you're getting ready, and all of a sudden, either you weren't paying attention at the time, your coach wasn't, or they called the race sooner than you thought. Sure. So now I can snap into my a lot of time routine, medium time routine, and short time routine.
Gotcha.
Maybe you have a certain song. Maybe you have a prayer you do. Maybe you do diaphragmic breathing. Whatever it might be, you can access that. And then when you go to during, this is when you can engage your self-talk, your appropriate attentional focus. First off, am I talking to myself in a positive way? Am I psyching myself up? Am I feeling somatic anxiety where I need to talk myself down? Breathe, inhale. Think about the positives. You're here because you deserve it. Whatever you might need to tell yourself. And then when you're climbing into your bike, when you're changing from your swimsuit, is your attention on that skill or that task? Or are you thinking about, oh my God, there's that person I lined up next to who I don't even know is 100 meters in front of me? Where's your focus at? I'm just making this up as we go. But then when something does go wrong, how do you reframe it? How do you bounce back from that setback or that challenge? Or I slipped and fell. I got to get back up. Lift your leg and power through with your arms. Whatever you have to do.
Gotcha. I do. Yeah. So I do think, so how I see this one pre-race, it's more definitely before the race. And then the during, also the self-talk, all these ones, I do believe that we need to practice during training. Absolutely. The main reason why I say that is because at the race is that we have high emotions. And when high emotions comes through, it's just so hard to control what our mind says. Yes. And it's just like in training, swim, bike, and run, we need to practice our mindset muscles or our mental state muscles, especially in the training, so it becomes a habit. Do you agree with that, Dr. Meany?
Oh, absolutely. I always believe in situational training. How can we replicate competition you'll never replicate lining up all the hullabaloo and the build up and the excitement, but how can we replicate that as much as possible so that when the time comes, you're ready? And this is not something new. Because again, after running through your first race, your 100th race is a lot different. You have a different approach to it. You have more knowledge, you're more experienced, and you're going to do better. And then if you don't do well, you're going to know why too.
Yeah.
That's part of the post-race planning where you have a performance journal or a self-talk log. You create a narrative after your race. You go back through 10 revisions R's and you say, all right, I recognize what happened. Or, did I accept the responsibility? Did I recognize what happened? Did I release what happened? Am I regrouping? Am I refocusing?
And what's the benefit of that, Dr. Meany? Because a lot of athletes like, work is done. Yeah. I'm just going to go back and sleep all day. Why do I have to write all these things and go back? I already got my medal. Why?
And that's okay too. It all depends on the person. Are you reflected better in the moment? Or are you reflected better after you've had something to eat, you've had carbohydrates, you've gotten sugar to refuel your muscles? Okay. What works for you? But what this is going to tell you is going to be a reminder and documentation of what you thought during the race. What did you tell yourself? When I climb on my bike, I started having negative thoughts that you have all these miles to go and you're not going to do it. Well, at some point, you're going to jot that down, and then you can go back and find ways to prevent that in the future.
Yep. Totally agree about that. And actually, you know, what we were talking about earlier about situational and actually practicing it, what I've also told my athletes is that when you're doing your triathlon simulation training, wherein you treat that training just like as a race, is that you don't just execute swimming, cycling, and running. I need you to be present.
Yep.
Your mindset, like as if you are racing, because you gotta go through it.
Yes.
You gotta go through it. And then sometimes, go ahead. Sorry.
I was training an American football player who was playing in Northern Illinois, incoming freshman. And he was really nervous about, he's a big kid, offensive lineman, 330 pounds. He's really nervous about the conditioning test.
Sure.
I had 7 150-yard shuttles that you had to do with under 35 seconds with a minute rest. So what did we do? We did 1 week. I only had 2 weeks to prepare, mind you, only 2. But what did we do? The first week, all we did was recreate our best effort in that test. And we laid the groundwork, we laid the endurance, we took away the shock, we took away it being a scary thing. And then the second week, we went back, and then we started making it for time. Not only did we lay the groundwork and show that we can complete this, and we did a progressive overload, but then we went back, and then we really started being a stickler on time, a stickler on the rest. And all through this thing, I'm coaching him on how to approach the task the best, being aware of where he's touching the line, being cognizant of his breathing. Is he expanding his belly? Is he using his recovery time appropriately? And this young man, by the way, not only passed the test once with upperclassmen players, he just texted me today and he passed it again today in front of all of his coaches and all of his peers.
Wow. That's amazing. That's awesome.
I was a very proud papa.
That's amazing. I know how that feels. That's really, really good. Let's check out who else are what else are people saying? I got called for talking to myself. I'm not going to let this hiccup effect after the rest of my race, even though after I pop my tire a mile 9 or 15. There's COVID change the perspective of other athletes because of this reason as well. Anyone who's relating to this, who's actually getting a lot of how to manage your anxiety during the race, what have you applied? And we're going to go to that actually. I would love to know, because during my conversation with the athletes, there are different coping mechanisms. Some of them they sleep through and then just really relax, walk, do yoga. We do in feistyfox Tribe, we do breath work, yoga as well. Some people read book or talk to their friends and family. What are the different methods that you can advise us in terms of managing anxiety, Dr. Meany?
Well, again, that's very important to the individual. And for me, on a sleepless night before a game or a competition, I know what I have to do. I don't eat before 6 p.m. Okay, that makes me digest well into the night. I turn off all electronics around 8:30. I do yoga in the evening, and then I will read before bed. So this works for me, and this helps me unwind. It helps me relax and engage in my parasympathetic nervous system. I'm calm, and I go to bed on time, and then I wake up early and I like coffee in the morning. And then I drink a lot of water to hydrate, and then I'll eat. So I know what works for me, but other people have an idea what works for them, but going back to that log, going back to truly understanding what is beneficial for you through reflection. And I had a really good race today because, you know what, I had scrambled eggs before. And it might be superstition, or it might be something that sat very well in your stomach.
Mm.
Going back to the young man I worked with, we had an early morning session. He goes, Coach, I ate 3 pancakes today because I thought that was going to be good for me. And I'm not feeling very well.
It works well. That's
I said
his mindset.
yeah.
If it works for you, then it is what it is, right?
And I remind him, I said, okay, that's not a problem. We're going to work through this, but let's remember when we take the test, not to eat pancakes before.
Yeah. I think that requires a lot of just really being present and not
Absolutely.
ignoring. As I said, we go to this fast-paced environment, especially with triathletes. As I said, it's not just one sport, it's 3 sports. And then that 3 sports, now we need to take care of our nutrition. Now we need to make sure that we don't get injured. And we still have family and work. Oh, I still need to do my laundry. I don't have any clothes anymore for my training. There's a lot of different things. And sometimes I agree with you. We need to put some time to just step back, breathe, and see like what's the best way to actually ground ourselves. And for you, it works yoga. And then you also said that even your one of the athletes that you work with is just basically eating the pancake. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. And then he changed his food the day before. I think he had something. He had the day of. He had really like toast and egg. And
okay,
and
it's changed.
Very light. Yeah, he's a big man, so he likes to eat. There's nothing wrong with that. But he was altering and playing with it and being reflective and being present. Okay, I don't feel well today. I'm not going to stop running. I'm not going to stop training. Mm-hmm. I'm going to grind through it. But now I know this is off the list and I will not do this anymore.
Actually, there are also other athletes. I'm just giving ideas. Athletes, if you're just listening, put #live, say hello. We have Dr. Meany here. We're talking about managing performance anxiety. Welcome, Christina, Simon. Welcome. So, there are other athletes actually would say that I have this bracelet. For example, we have the feistyfox bracelet that says, I got this. Mm-hmm. Some other athletes put something on there like a tattoo and then says like, oh, I said I will, and so I did. Something like that, or never quit. Yep. So in any way that would actually keep you calm and get you back to your core value.
Yep. And that reframes your thought process. When you start to go negative town, you can look at your arm. And some people would like that. Some people would feel that this is a badge of honor, right? Me, I would probably preferably keep that internal. And that's fine. You can talk out loud yourself. When you're running running a triathlete race, if someone's listening to what you're saying, maybe they need to refocus what they're thinking about too. No one's going to judge you. No, everyone has their own thing going on. And if you have a bracelet, if you have a tattoo, if you have your shirt, whatever it might be. I have a friend who used to put on different layers for different phrases of the workout. And when he flipped off the shirt, boom, he knew he was in a different phase. That's great.
Question. So how about, we're getting a lot of questions actually. So how about taper week? So for triathletes, we do have periodization. We're in about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the athlete, that athlete would actually taper before the race. So basically this is where instead of a person who's actually training for an Ironman, suddenly it went down to almost 0, like a 1-hour workout on a weekend. And for an athlete who used to like train for 6 to let's say 8-10 hours before, and suddenly it's only 1 hour because the body needs to taper.
Yep.
Some athletes go crazy because they're left to like, what am I to do now? I'm just sitting here. So how do you have any advice to those athletes who just cannot stand being still and not do anything? So any advice to those athletes?
Well, I'm with them. Idle hands are the devil's playpen. So I anytime I'm not doing something better than myself, I kind of get a little anxiety. But going back to that race plan,
sure,
this can be a time when you really map that out. So you usually train for 4 hours, and your new train time is an hour. Yes, you 100% need to let your body rest. You 100% need to go through that tapering process, but you can start to develop some of these things in this time. It'd be like, again, going back to rugby or American football, you can't practice all the time. So they use other supplemental things like weight training or yoga or team bonding or film analysis or scouting report or drawing up your race plan. And you can come up with what is your expectation or mindset at mile 1. What is your go-to at mile 2? And then you can map this out and not only occupy that time, but develop yourself cognitively to prepare yourself physically to help your overall performance. And I think a lot of that overall on the periphery is where people really lose sight of how you can get an edge or how you can develop yourself.
Got it. I like that. Actually, I totally agree with that in terms of actually having, I call it more of a race strategy. Mm-hmm. Like how do you execute the race itself? Because when we are just basically exercising, training, we're so involved into the putting our mindset to that training. But then, hey, after all this training, what are the targets? What are the realistic targets? And we actually let me share you something here that for athletes who are actually in the group, this is available to you guys. If you haven't downloaded it, it's actually in here. It's Triathlon Champion Cheat Mindset or Cheat Sheet. And what I've shared here are the things that I've done. And that's free in the Ironman and Beyond Triathlon Strategies for Feisty Badass Triathletes. It's basically a checklist wherein you can, because sometimes it's honestly, like, for example, a lot of athletes like, you know what? I have a strong mindset. You know what? I'm not going to be anxious. But guess what? It's a lot better when you get your pen and paper and actually do something. That transfer of knowledge to that paper, it helps us remember also. So
absolutely. And then it gives you that GPS. That that old Mike Tyson saying, everyone has a plan until they're punched in the mouth. Well, when you get punched in the mouth, what are you going to rely on? I'm gonna engage self-talk. I'm going to engage reframing. I'm going to engage all these different things or visualization, whatever it might be. And then you're able to access that quickly.
Yep.
Practice it because you've been in this situation before. And it's not a surprise. Now that you're tire pop and you go, oh, no problem. I got an extra one in my bag.
There you go. Yeah.
I carry it on my bike. Okay, no problem. Here we go.
I like what you mentioned, quick access. The way I see it, I relate it to kind of like a file folder of mindset. For example, there's ocean coming at me. File folder, easy access. What am I going to apply? And also that mentioned that when I said like notes, it's something that sometimes you just need to read it so many times until it gets stuck to your head.
Absolutely. And it limits your barriers of entry. It's kind of like paternal libertarianism, where you just see a little bit of nudge in the right way. And that keeps you from giving up. There's a lot of people whose tire will pop, oh, I'm done, never mind. Or I fell off my bike, I'm done, never mind. But having that action plan that you've worked out extensively for long periods of time instead of training your body, now you have that at the ready. Oh, that's no problem. All right, here's a detour. I know how to handle this.
Got it. So now I have a very important question for you, and it could be hard because a lot of the athletes actually have this history wherein they had trauma. Trauma in terms of like specifically, let's say drowning when they were a kid, or maybe they had this washing machine. They thought they would almost drown in the ocean, and then now there's the ocean in front of them, and then there's like bang, it's about to start, and there's a lot more athletes around them. It's a panic. And then also other athletes get really anxious, especially if they had history of what we call the 3-letter word that we don't like, athletes out there, the big word DNF, or did not finish. Those words, it's like, oh my God, I DNF again. It's kind of like for them, it comes back to their head. What if it happens again? What if I could drown? It's hard because sometimes it's just it's just hard. Any advice on that, Dr. Meany?
Well, again, then that's where you really go in the realm of what I'm qualified to do. This is a childhood trauma.
Sure. Okay,
Thing.
gotcha.
This might be something for a mental health counselor. This might be
Gotcha.
something for a licensed psychologist or a clinical psychologist. On a performance end, if it is a little bit of a fear or what if this happens, what if that happens, you can root that back into statistics. And I'm not an expert by any means of your sport. I'm still learning and this is evolving, but there has to be some sort of study that's been done that you can point the triathlete to say, well, 75% of all triathletes finish. Only 3 people have ever drowned in competition or whatever it might
scary.
be.
Yeah.
No, it is scary. And I'm not minimizing the fact that happens. Or maybe no one's ever drowned during competition. I don't want to surmise or jump to conclusions. But what I'm saying is through research and through taking away the fear of it and training in that medium,
there you go.
You're more able to ground the athlete and say, if you want to do this, there's no way around it. You have to get in the ocean. So if you want to be a triathlete, but you can't seem to even get your toes wet, maybe that goes back to the
are you ready?
No, some people are like, man, I love football, but I don't like tackling people. Well, is this really the sport for you? And that's not in a mean way. That's not in a judgmental way. That's in a really proactive way of saying, if you can't find your way over this, or through time we don't become comfortable with this, maybe we might need to reroute our attention, reroute our energy into places that are not going to freak us out.
Got it. Yeah. All right, good. That's awesome. Well, to me also, what I always also remind them is go back to your training, trust your training.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is that, you show up there, you better be ready for it. This is something for you guys, if you're having this trouble, make sure to dig into it, like what's causing it, and to expose yourself more in a safer way. Like, for example, in the ocean, if they know they're scared, train for it. First, admit it. And then the next thing is get help, like what you said. If it's something that the psychologist will need to dig into that fear, to that trauma that might need, or maybe it's more of communication to someone they trust, and then to actually share that.
Absolutely.
Sometimes,
and it might be incremental exposure where you might train, if you're that terrified, maybe you train in a kiddie pool. Maybe you train in like an above ground pool that no one can drown in. And then you progress to maybe a public pool, and then you progress to an Olympic pool, and then you go thigh high in the ocean. Whatever it might be. It's going to be different for everybody, but there's definitely ways around that. But if you go through all those steps and that you're still not comfortable, maybe we have to figure out what's better for us.
Okay. Or, because there's also like the bike and run first, get to that one first, or maybe they need to focus on the swimming only and really put 100% in it. And sometimes it's not just the training. Like, that's why we have you, Dr. Meany, is because sometimes it's just the mindset. The mindset blocks us from doing and performing at high performance. Let's see what else here. Just one last. Okay, how do you get over the anxiety of not having the correct bike for the race?
Well, that would be a situational, going back to that anxiety map, that would be a situational experience. There might be people who have really, really, really top-notch, high-level bikes, and they might be professionals. You might be an amateur. But I think you having a realistic conversation about why are you in this position? Is this new to you? Like, I have golf clubs for my dad. I don't golf a lot. I do it socially. So when people make fun of my clubs, I'm okay with it. I don't need a $500 driver. I get to carry around my dad's bags, who's now passed on several years ago, but it's a way for me to connect with them. So that's when anybody says anything about that, I don't really care. And I'm more worried about my swing than I'm worried about having
there you go.
Another club.
It's
I
the
really,
execution
just
rather than the
going
gift.
back to your training. Now, but what you could say is that I understand my bike is not what I want. I'm going to create a savings plan. I'm going to do research. I might buy a better secondhand bike. There's a lot of ways that you can navigate that and come up with a plan to say, I'm not where I am right now, but this is where I want to be. And it could be performance, it could be your mental state, it could be your bike, it could be your shoes, it could be whatever. And just know that you're gonna improve on that. If that's your goal.
Yeah. Actually, I can relate to Ryan because, my bike before was really a discounted bike. And I remember sharing this to you, Ryan, it's under $1,000 compared to this 10, 20,000. It was a road bike. It was heavy. But guess what? One thing that would change big time is trusting the machine, trusting your training, looking back at your Garmin data, the data itself, you showing up, get it from there.
Yeah.
And then also the next one is actually looking for athletes, or just like Dr. Meany in his example, it's more of the execution rather than the club itself.
Yeah.
Than the equipment, than the gear. Or when I say that, hey, I did it, I actually bike with up to 300 miles with that under $1,000 discounted bike. Yeah. And that took me to several 200-mile ride. And I finished a full Ironman with that. Yeah. And it's not going to be only me. There are a lot of other athletes there. And I'm impressed with those athletes who just show up just to do it, just to experience it, just to enjoy the race. I have an athlete right now did a sprint triathlon with a beach bike, and it doesn't clip. And you know what? I told her, just learn from it. Yeah. Use it as a learning experience. So instead of worrying about your bike, focus on the training, focus on you, trust you that you know how to ride your bike. All right. I think we got all the questions that we have. Dr. Meany, it's very, very helpful that you actually got on the call in our live interview. I want to know, how can we get hold of you if we have other questions relating to this mindset game? How can we perform at high performance? How can we manage anxiety? How can we contact you?
Well, first off, probably the best way is through LinkedIn. I do most of my stuff through LinkedIn. I'm readily available there. You can learn more about my profile and a lot of my experiences and what I could provide. Through email is another point of contact. And then I'm off the grid with social media. So I'm not like a Twitter guy. I'm not a Facebook guy. I try to, again, going back to simplifying your life, taking away some of the periphery. I try to focus on positive interaction. So you won't find me there, and I'm happy about that. But those are probably the best two ways. And I'm always available to learn more about individuals to help them be their best self. And
there you
go. This is something I'm incredibly passionate about. And I'm here because other people have helped me get to this point. And I really believe in paying it forward and trying to help people enjoy their life as much as possible. And a lot of that comes through challenges and accomplishment. So, and one last thing is that this might sound overwhelming. It might sound very hard, but when you really simplify yourself, when you really are present and you are cognizant of what you're doing and how that translates into your actions and how those actions influence your performance, it really becomes a simple thing and a simple process to navigate.
Got it. Good. So here on this live show and also in YouTube or podcast, we're going to have in the caption the contact of Dr. Meany. If you guys would like to contact him, directly contact him through LinkedIn. He is very good in responding emails too. So we're going to give that out so you guys can contact him. If you want to get help or that information, just say #Meany, #health. So we can get you that help and we can get you connected. Also, the next thing is that if you want us to just basically tag you on that champion mindset sheet that I also showed you earlier that you have available right now, and you don't have to pay anything, just tell us, and then we'll get you that one too. Okay. I think that's actually really good. Let's make sure, let's see, Christina, Ryan, Jennifer, Wendell, Simon, and the rest of the other athletes who actually join us in. Make sure you say what you've learned on this live show, and then what you get, and then what else do you want to learn more about what we just talked about, if we're missing anything else or any other questions that may have come up. Thank you again, Dr. Meany. We really, 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 really appreciate your time. I know you're ahead of us, but thank you.
Well, and I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate our relationship. I really believe in what you're doing, and hanging out with you, so much fun. And I always enjoy the opportunity to learn and being around some of your energy and enthusiasm.
All right. Thank you, everyone. You guys have a great week. Bye.